is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. José Cordeiro. José is an engineer, a futurist, an economist, and has a bevy of talents and skills. He has run for office in the parliament in Europe. He has founded numerous projects, innovations. He is a real hero of the future. His favorite term is revolution, and he's known for that. His book, The Death of Death, has been translated in various languages, and he's going to be talking about that today. But outside of that, José is one of these people that is capable of understanding the future from a perspective of the economy globally, and also visionary about the possibilities. He's been involved with the Millennial Project for many years, as well as Humanity Plus. He serves as vice chair of Humanity Plus, and he is a delight to work with. So it is my pleasure to introduce José Cordeiro. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natasha, and to everybody, to all the friends here. I want to talk about the death of death, which is, I think, a very important issue right now, today, because of COVID. We are realizing how important our health is and how we have to take care of our health. So let me just put this into context because we are in COVID days. And as you can see, most of the people who die are people in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, and even more. So basically, COVID is an age-related disease. And look at in a historic context, COVID is still actually very small. The Black Death in the 14th century killed about 200 million people at that time, when there were relatively very few people, not even 1 billion people. So the Black Death in Europe is estimated to have killed between a third and a fourth of the population, or smallpox, or the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu, which did not start in Spain, it started in the USA, but it was called the Spanish flu because the USA and the rest of Europe were in World War I, but Spain was not in the war, and so we talked about the Spanish flu in Spain. About 50 million people died, and the population of the planet at that time was also not even 2 billion people. So 50 million out of 2 billion people died. So I don't know how many people will die in this tragedy of COVID, if it will be 1 million or 2 millions or even 5 millions, but the population today is reaching 8 billion people. So in comparative terms, this is a much smaller pandemic. However, there has been an incredible economic impact from governments and companies. Just in the USA, over $2 trillion. This is an incredible amount, $2 trillion by the US government this year. And big companies like Google and Facebook, Amazon, etc., are investing billions and billions of dollars. So we are talking about trillions for governments, billions of dollars by companies for COVID-19. So imagine what we should do for aging, because aging is the leading cause of all other diseases. If you look at flu, influenza, cancer, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular diseases, or anything else, the main cause of all these diseases really is aging. Today, about 110,000 people die every day of aging and age-related diseases. I repeat, 110,000 people every day, day after day, continuously. This is a tragedy. And if we have been doing so much for COVID-19, why don't we do it for aging, which is the major leading cause of suffering in the planet? In fact, if we cure all cancers, there are studies that say we might get 3 extra years of life, curing all cancers. If we cure heart disease, we might get 4 more extra years. If we cure cancer and heart disease, we might get about 7 extra years of life. But if we slow aging, we can get maybe 30 more years of lifespan. And if we reverse, control, stop aging, much more. So aging is the mother of all diseases. That is why many people, and more, we consider aging as a disease, the worst disease, the mother of all diseases. With that in mind, my fantastic co-author, David Good, who will be speaking later, who also studied in Cambridge. He studied in Cambridge, England, and I studied in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. About 3 years ago, we decided to write a book about all the scientific advances about curing aging and the philosophical considerations. And we published 2 years ago in Spanish, La Muerte de la Muerte, with the most important Spanish publishing house. And then last year, we published in Portuguese, A Morte da Morte. The book became #1 and #5 10 best-selling book in Spain and the Spanish-speaking world, according to Amazon. #1 in paper and #5 in Kindle, electronic format. And in Brazil, in Portuguese, it became #1 best-selling book in biotechnology and in some areas also in medicine. Right now, the book will be coming out in French, then in Russian, and then in other languages like Chinese and English. David Wood and myself, we are donating the royalties of our book to promote scientific research on these areas with the Sense Research Foundation, and in Spain with a scientific foundation called Apadrina la Ciencia. Why Spain? Well, because I'm living now in Spain also, and because Spain will have the world's longest life expectancy in the world. Right now, it is Japan. And after Japan, there is a tie between Switzerland, Spain, and other countries. But because longevity keeps on increasing in Spain, it is expected that in 2 years, Spain will have the longest life expectancy in the world. So this is a big issue. And also, this is why so many people have died of COVID in Spain, because of the elderly population of Spain. Additionally, not only do we have older people, we have incredible scientists. Maria Blasco, who leads the National Cancer Research Institute in Madrid. He is one of the 5 authors of the most famous study ever on aging in history, which is called The Hallmarks of Aging, published in 2013 by the prestigious magazine Cell. In fact, there are 5 authors, and out of the 5 authors, 3 are from Spain. One is from Germany and one is from England, if I'm not mistaken. So out of the 5 authors, 3 from Spain, and Maria Blasco also wrote a best-selling book called How to Die Young at Age of 140. And that is very interesting, How to Die Young at 140. And I told her personally, I said, that's the first edition, How to Die Young at 140. The second edition should be How to Die Young at 140,000 years. And the next edition should be How Not to Die. So this is what is happening in terms of scientific advances by Spanish scientists. Another famous one is called Juan Carlos Ispizua Belmonte, who works at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, San Diego, California. He has been able to rejuvenate mice and other animals. He's working with certain technologies like the famous Yamanaka factors that was a Nobel Prize idea in 2012. So Juan Carlos and some other people are working on rejuvenating mice, and they have been able to do this already. This is very important, incredible advance in science. Time magazine, a few years ago, they wrote that in 2045, we will become immortal. And I truly believe in this. Many of these ideas are actually based on the concept of the singularity. The idea of the singularity has been popularized by my friend Ray Kurzweil, also from MIT, and he wrote this best-selling book in 2005, The Singularity is Near. Right now, he's finishing his newest book, which is called The Singularity is Nearer. Nearer, it is closer and closer. So we believe this is going to happen. In fact, I was one of the original founding faculty of Singularity University when we began in 2009, and I lived in California for 4 or 5 years. And at that time, we had these ideas about the singularity with the support of NASA, Google, Cisco, Autodesk, and many other companies that are realizing that we are approaching this technological singularity and a possible immortality as well. The idea is called technological convergence. It was developed by the US National Science Foundation at the beginning of this century, and they talked about 4 leading technologies: nano, bio, info, and cogno. Nanotechnology studies atoms, biotechnology studies cells, infotechnology bits, and cogno neurons. The 2 technologies on top, nano and bio, are the hardware of life. And the 2 technologies in the bottom are the software of life. And what is interesting is that 2 things will happen on both sides, the hardware side on top and the software side on the bottom. By 2029, we will reach probably longevity escape velocity, or the Methuselarity. That means that in 10 years, for every year that we live, we will win 1 extra year of life, because life expectancy is still increases. That is called longevity escape velocity, or the Methuselarity, on the hardware side. And on the software side, we will reach, or we will pass, the Alan Turing test. And by that time, we will not know if we are talking to a human or to an artificial intelligence in 2029. And then finally, by 2045, all of these technologies, the hardware and the software, we will reach the singularity. And the singularity on the hardware side and on the software side as well, the immortality. We will have immortality from the biological side and from the software side. We will basically be able to upload our minds, upload our brains. This is all due to exponential technologies. Things are changing exponentially, faster, smaller, cheaper, and better. I remember 40 years ago when I went to MIT that we still used IBM punch cards. Those punch cards that you can see actually had 1K, on average of 1K of memory. They were 10 by 100 on average. There were different types, but 10 by 100 is 1,000, 1K. Today, we have USB drives and connections of 1 tera. So this has happened in the last 4 decades. Imagine what will happen in the next few decades, but not only on computer technology, but also in biology and on the medical side of things. In 2003, the Human Genome Project was finished, and it cost overall $3 billion US, $3 billion US, and it took over 13 years. Today, in 2020, you can sequence your human genome for close to $100 in 1 hour. And soon it will cost $10 and you will do in 1 minute. This is called exponentially doubled. It is exponential on cost from $1 billion to $10, and it is exponential on time from 13 years to 1 minute. So we are using this now for biology, for aging, that we call a disease. Aging is a disease, but fortunately, it is a curable disease. What have scientists been able to do? Well, in the last few years, the life expectancy of mice has been doubled. The life expectancy of mosquitoes have been multiplied by 4, and some worms by 10 times. We have already Methuselah worms that live the equivalent of 1,000 human years. In fact, we even know that cancer cells are biologically immortal. Cancer cells do not age. They are considered biologically immortal. In fact, the cells of Henrietta Lacks will become centenarian on August 1st, because she was born in 1920, August 1st. And those immortal cells are alive. They are alive. They will be 100 years old, and they look like teenagers. This was discovered in 1951. Since that time, we know that cancer cells stop aging. And cancer cells are biologically immortal. But not only cancer, also germ cells. Germ cells are considered biologically immortal, and they are probably the best cells, and cancer cells are the worst, and they are also biologically immortal. So we have good and bad cells that are biologically immortal. We have small organisms that are also biologically immortal, like hydras. And the first life forms, bacteria, are also biologically immortal, the ones that divide symmetrically. So we know that there are life forms that are immortal and cells that are immortal. That is when people tell me that immortality is impossible. I say, how is it impossible? It already exists. The proof that it is possible is that immortality already exists. Aubrey de Grey revolutionized the world with his book that he wrote in last decade. But at that time, he was called a charlatan, a crazy person, by my alma mater, by MIT Technology Review in 2005. And then they changed opinion. MIT Technology Review in September last year, they wrote, old age is over if you want it. Actually, all truth goes through three steps. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is being accepted as self-evident. This is what will happen in the next 2 decades. We will accept aging as a disease that can be cured, and that this should have been known from before. My friend Ray Kurzweil also talks about immortality by 2045, crossing 3 bridges. Bridge 1, last decade, 2010s, Bridge 2, 2020s with biotechnology, and Bridge 3, 2030s with nanotechnology, until we reach immortality by 2045. So Ray Kurzweil talks about the technological singularity, Aubrey de Grey about the methuselarity, and I talk about the energularity, which is the energy singularity also in 2 decades. Companies are beginning to invest heavily on anti-aging, like Google. They created a company called Calico to solve death, or Microsoft that says that they will solve cancer as a computer problem, because now that we have sequenced the genome, we can find the mutations that cause cancer. Or the Zuckerberg family, that they are donating all their money to cure all diseases, including aging. In the last 3 years, there is an incredible ecosystem of anti-aging that is growing in billions now and soon in trillions. This will be the largest industry in the world in 1 decade, as you can see how fast this is growing. And we know that aging can be reversed. In fact, in 2012, the Nobel Prize in Medicine, Shinya Yamanaka, he got the prize for rejuvenating a cell in 2012 by only changing 4 genes. So today we know that by changing genes, we can rejuvenate cells. And there are incredible developments. Epigenetic clocks. This was discovered less than 10 years ago, and we can use epigenetic clock to actually check if cells are becoming younger or older. This can be done now. And we also have CRISPR, which is very new. This is also only a few years old. And this allows us to change the cell. And senolytics. This is a new treatment that has been also discovered recently that will allow us to cure basically many diseases. We are part with Natasha, Ray Kurzweil, and some people. We are part of a coalition for radical life extension that organized RAD, Revolution Against Aging and Death. As Natasha pointed out, I always like to say, Viva la revolución, because this is a revolution against aging and death. Aging and death is our enemy. Last October, we showed for the first time the first age reversal treatments. So you can check that. And this October, we will show the update of the age reversal treatments according to the Revolution Against Aging and Death. So if you know the Russian app called Face App, how am I going to be? How are you going to be in the future? Will you be older or will you be younger? 2 years ago, I organized Transvision in Madrid, and Ben Gordsall and Robert Sophia and many other people came, and we talked about immortality of the software and of the hardware. We had a fantastic event, and now we are having another one, originally scheduled for 2020 October, but it might be now 2021 May because of the situation, we don't know. But we will talk again about immortality, biological immortality. So we have to meditate. The future is fantastic. We really need to meditate in many different ways. I love meditation because the world always has the yin and the yang. There is good and bad, and this is very complex. And the Chinese word that means crisis has two parts. This is a beautiful word in Chinese that is also used in Japanese and in Korean. And in Chinese, crisis has two parts. The first one means danger, but the second one means opportunity. So let's grab this opportunity. And I invite you all to come to Madrid for translation. And let's talk about longevity, immortality, and the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose. Thank you for your fascinating talk. We're running a little bit short of time, so I will try to be very quick and trying to gather some questions from the community and a few other things that I would like to ask you. So someone on the YouTube chat was asking why Japanese seems to be so successful in extending and prolonging their life, and I've seen also you quoting a Japanese researcher. So do you have any anything to share about how Japanese is treating death?
Yes, actually, I personally lived 3 years in Tokyo, in Japan, and I can tell you, Japanese food in general is very healthy. That is why Japanese are some of the most longevous people in the world, and also Spain. The Spanish diet, the Mediterranean diet is also very healthy. And just like in Spain, we have scientists working on anti-aging, the same in Japan, because Japan has an additional problem that the population of Japan is already decreasing. It is going down. So they need to keep their people, and they have discovered that rejuvenation is possible. And that is why there is incredible amount of investment now in anti-aging in Japan. And my book, actually, The Death of Death, also should be coming out in Japanese next year.
Oh, that's amazing. And do you have any update that is not included in the book that you would like to mention? Any anti-aging development that you haven't described in your book, maybe?
Yes, I keep on writing about this continuously in internet. As I mentioned, senolytics. Senolytics is advancing very fast. Also, there are new treatments with CRISPR, and there are other things that will be released if you go to the RAD, Revolution Against Aging and Death. On the second protocol that will be announced on October 4th, there will be the latest of the latest anti-aging treatments.
Okay, and this is a question from me, actually. The few times that I try to mention longevity research and anti-death research to the people I speak to, the reaction is often a bit skeptic, or they're asking why someone would like to live forever. So my question is, how do we overcome this fear of living forever, or making death a conscious choice, and why people are so scared about it?
Well, first, I try to shock people because I'm also very ironic. And I say, well, this is not mandatory. If you want to die, die. You can die. No one stops you from dying. Actually, not now, not in the future. You will always be able to die if you want to die. However, what we have now for the very first time in history is the possibility not only not to die, but to be younger. And that is the objective, to be younger. People, when they think about living forever, they think they are going to be old and decrepit forever. That is not the objective. The objective is biological rejuvenation, that, as I mentioned, is possible, even if people don't know it. In fact, many people don't know that cancer cell is biologically immortal. People don't know it. And I repeat, on August 1st this year, the Henrietta Lacks cancer cells will be 100 years old. And 99% of the people do not know that cancer cells are biologically immortal.
And moving to a different aspect, what, in your opinion, are the economical implications of extending and prolonging our lifespan?
Well, these are very positive consequences, results, because we will be healthy. we will be in good shape. We will be able to do incredible things and produce and invent and create. We also, instead of being dependent on social security or pensions or money from the government, we will be able to create, to produce. So this is called the longevity dividend. There are many economic advantages to be healthy, to be in good condition, not to be sick. Also, it is very sad, but basically in the last 2-3 years of your life, you spend 80% of the money on medical costs, and still you die, people die. So those costs will not happen because you are not supposed to die, okay? So there will be a lot of economic savings for being healthy, for being young. This is called the longevity dividend. Longevity dividend, which are the economic gains of being young, of living longer, of staying healthy.
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. David is asking, what are the current barriers to reach the death of death by 2045 that we need to overcome?
I hope this is my fantastic co-author, David Good, asking that great question. And well, there are many barriers. One of them, actually, I think is psychological. It is mental, because most people don't think this is possible. As I talked about Arthur Schopenhauer and the 3 stages of truth, most people think this is crazy, this is impossible, that this is a bad idea. So people need to know that this is a good idea. As I explained with the longevity dividend, this is economically fantastic to be young, to be indefinitely healthy as long as you want. But also people think that because we always died until now, that we will continue to die in the future. So people need to know that this is not the case, that today it is still impossible. It is correct. Today it is impossible. But in 20 years, in 30 years, this will not be impossible. In fact, I tell people, when we will be in 2045 and we look back to today, we will remember how primitive we were today, how barbaric we were today, that we would let people die. How could we let people die when they have learned so much, they have done so much, when they are at their peak of knowledge, capabilities, and then they die? This is a tragedy. This is a human tragedy. This is horrible. So people need to know, 1, this is scientifically possible, and 2, this is economically beneficial.
Thank you so much, Jose. I really appreciate you trying to give these answers very quickly. Now we need to pass on to the next speaker. I have one last curiosity to ask you. Why are you wearing a face mask?
Well, because in Madrid, we have had extraofficially 15,000 people who died of COVID-19. And I'm emphasizing that it is important to take care of your health so that you live long enough to live forever. So I am taking care of myself and I'm taking care of you. We need to take care of all of us together so that we pass COVID-19 into bridge 2, according to Ray Kurzweil, and then bridge 3 towards immortality. So this is to stay healthy, and this is a tragedy. Many people are dying.
Great. Thank you so much, and viva la revolución.